Here's how you get into the differential gears. The first thing you want to do is pull this out. Mine was in wrong before, that's why I had to redo this video, but it should be stacked like this. You've got a thick washer on each side, and you've got a cutout on this here that lays in here with the cutout facing up. There's a corresponding mark on the case. You can see there's a little shiny mark here and a shiny mark here, and then the little slots. The way that the shaft goes is that little slot goes right here. You can see, so that doesn't tip over or roll. You can see the little chew marks where it goes into there. So it's facing down here, which means it's facing up on the other one, so that when you install it, it should look like that. So we take our magnet tool and we pull out this little horseshoe retainer from each side. We'll set them in a clean dish. Now we're going to move this to the side a little bit and then hold the gear and pull back on the axle shaft. And what that does is it frees up this C-clip. It's just like on a Ford 8.8 inch differential. You just pull that out. We'll set that in a clean dish, and then we'll go to the other side. Pull the axle back, we'll hold the gear in place, and pull out the same thing on the other side. There's two slots. You use the outside slots, the outboard side. So now you can turn this so that your spider gears are even on the sides this way, and pull one axle shaft back, pull the other axle shaft back, and then just pull this straight up. And it just comes out in a setup like this. Now, mine was in wrong, so I didn't get to see how it's supposed to be, so I was really happy to have double wide 6 video. He talked about how this is the open side goes to the short side axle, the short shaft. So you can just pull these out and they just come apart like this, and that's how they're to be changed. There's a hole there. So super easy if you do it this way. So you got to line them up so that when you're looking through the hole, everything goes right through. Just like a little kid with diarrhea. Everything goes right through. That's a joke, son. So put it back in. You can clean out all of your case and everything that you need to do in there, and then put these back in. The new gears are hollow on the back side. It seems like they're an updated material. The old ones are all smooth, so don't feel bad if yours is like that. So when we're looking at this shaft here, you can see that there's a groove here that's cut a little bit deeper and a shallow groove here. The way that this was put together was these were in the shallow groove and they were forced into the thing. For some reason, when you put it in the shallow groove, you have to really force it to get it to go into the little recess on the gear, on the spider gear. So if it doesn't fit, just pick it up and turn it. So anyway, this was a lot harder than what it would have been, and thanks to the videos and the instruction online. And if you go to toughtorqueservices.com, they have exploded diagrams for all of the different transmission models. There's nothing for T40. You got to go to K46. When you look at the bottom of your pan, even if you have a T40 or a K40, you'll find that it's stamped on the bottom of the pan that goes right here, like what would be right there. It says K46 on it. They're essentially this, I don't know why the difference on the tags, but it's a K46. And the parts for K46 work, obviously. Okay, so I've got these bumped together, so I'm going to pull back slightly on one side. I'm going to take that little C-clip and put the C-clip back into it. And I'm going to push it that way. I'm going to get my other C-clip for the other side, and it's just exactly the same process. Now, do you do the smooth end or the hard end or the straight edge cut? We'll look at it and see what the wear marks are. The spin is on the flat side, so you want the rounded side to be facing in. You can just read the parts on your mower and it'll tell you what you need to do. And then the same thing on these. You can see all the spinning marks on this are all on this side. So you want to make sure to put that toward the gear, flat side to the gear on these. Mine was put together wrong, so, you know, could be wrong, but it's not going to make a critical difference on that. So I've got my flat spot up. Yours will probably just fit properly because yours wasn't taken apart in a dirt road driveway and put back together wrong. Okay, so all of this is put back together. I'm going to leave this out for now, and we're going to show you what's inside here. This is your pump and motor housings. I'll wipe my hands off a little bit so I don't slime the tools. And we're going to switch to a 14mm for these bolts. Get them out. So I'm going to hold this down while I pull the bolts out. Alright, so I've got these and they're all the same length. Set them aside. There's a couple of pins on this side. I'm going to leave the camera the way it is, but I'm going to tell you there's two sides or two things that are going to want to get messed up. There's a little teeny pin that's in this side. I'll show you where that is. And then there's a couple of plungers or servos or hydraulic pistons that go into the block here. So you just got to watch out for those. This is a wedge shape. It's under spring-loaded pressure from your motor. This is the motor and this is the pump. The way you can keep that straight is this motor turns directly to the differential. You see that's in line, the drivetrain there. The pump is inside of here and it's inverted and underneath of this thing. And it goes to that shaft. Remember the shaft that was with the pulley and the fan? It goes to that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that little pry bar again. We're going to put some pressure down. I'm going to pop that until this little ramp comes up. I'm going to just kind of wiggle it gently up. These have alignment dowels just like a cylinder head or something. I'll show you in a minute. And there's washers and things in this, so you just want to pull that all up together. If you pull it all out together and have a clean surface, if you drop any little pins or balls or anything, you're going to be okay. Alright, so I'm going to separate these. There's a shaft going from here into the motor. So I'm going to pull that out. If you keep this in contact with this, that little pin for the disengage, remember that pin that makes it neutral or not neutral? So you got your washers and all this stuff together. We'll show you how that is in just a minute. This is your motor. Now oftentimes if your differential doesn't fail, it's the motor or the pump. This is the pump here, and then this is the motor. They're slightly different diameters. There's a little washer and a little pin. You can see that pin right there. That pin is the disconnect. It basically pushes against the motor to break the hydraulic lockup, if you will. So that clean paper towel that you had set out so that you don't have to tip or turn or do anything with this, go ahead and use that now and just set that down. Notice on the back side of this it's got a little washer. Don't lose that. Keep that tracked. So if your motor's bad, the way that you tell is you wiggle these. You move it like this. Now the video of a 65 Ford that he did, and also Punch Your Eye Hole, his video, they both demonstrate really well what it looks like if these are bad. 65 Ford, he went so far as to get a micrometer and show the difference between when one's bad and one's not. So there's a little gasket material there. But all these are is there's a plunger and a spring. No balls, no fancy anything. It's just a spring, plunger or a piston, and the block. And what happens is the block wears out if it doesn't get enough lubrication, if it gets too hot. This only has 200 hours, 198 hours on it. It really hasn't been worn bad that way. It's just there wasn't sufficient lubrication for this and it wound up eating the gears. And I think that Tough Torque's apologetic for John Deere's mistake in oil viscosity choice in providing these for $25. That's awesome. Thank you. So mine's okay, so I'll set that aside for now. This is just demonstration purposes. Obviously if you wanted to replace it, we'll show you how to put that back in a minute. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pistons on this. So by using 3 fingers you should be able to hold all of them. So you've got 2 on this side and 1 on this side, and this depends on the orientation. What I'm doing is I'm holding these 3 with 2 fingers. This gap here and this gap here holds all 3 of those, and then this one holds the other 2. So when you pull it up you just do it like that. Same story, just check for play. This is in really good shape. My motor might have a little wear. It's got a little bit more play in it than what this does, but I think it's going to be okay. But these are very nice and tight. Same story, just a spring and a piston or a plunger. That's all there is to it. I just realized I didn't put the do not disturb on filming sign up, so maybe we'll get interrupted, maybe we won't. You know, the gas pedal for this, if you push it one way or the other, you see the spring here. I'm going to set this aside so I don't mess anything up. Wipe off my hands so I'm not contagious and making a mess. But this is how you go forward or backward. It just tips this plate, and that tips the orientation of the, you know, the way that the pistons are riding on that, and it changes the pressure. So pretty stinking awesome. And it's just got little bearings and stuff there, just like on an automatic transmission. Because it is an automatic transmission. I'm in on a car. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so when we go to put this back together, you guessed it, we're going to take our pump, which is a smaller diameter. Let's show you both of these. This is the pump and this is the motor. And you see that there's a difference between the size on them. As far as these go, are these interchangeable? No, they're not. These are too big for on the motor side. So, alright, so we're going to take this, set it aside for now. The motor, we're going to take our pump, we're going to hold it a special way, 2 fingers holding 3, 1 finger holding 1, like this, and we're going to put it down onto the shaft here. Okay, now remember that neutral bar? This is it. You can see how it's got a slot in it, just like our brake lever, so that when this is in a different position, what this does is it pushes on that teeny little pin. What teeny little pin? Glad you asked. Let me show you. This teeny little pin. What that does is the motor butts up to this, and that pin just gets in there. You know, like if you have a suction cup or something on. There, I lost it. Dropped right out the bottom. See how easy that was to lose? What that does is that pushes on the motor and breaks it. Say you got a suction cup sucked onto there. You want to peel it up on the edge, or just peel up a little bit, and it breaks the seal. That's what it does, is it breaks the hydraulic pressure on the motor by pushing the back end of it over. When you look from this side, that's where this shaft goes. This shaft right here goes in this little hole right there. And you can see the back side of that hole is where the pin goes. So this pin goes through right there. You can see that, so that when this shaft turns, so that's why this needs to be in this position. If it's in the other position and you force this down on there and tighten these 3 bolts, it's going to bust that pin or break this. Something will have to give. So you want to make sure that this is in as close to position of orientation perpendicular to the drive shafts as you can, the axles. Alright, so that's how that goes. So I just make sure it's right there. I'm holding this level. Now those other 2 things that you want to be careful with, these plungers here, plungers, pistons, servos, whatever you want to call them, you don't want to pull these in and out because there's other little small parts you can lose. Just leave them in there. It's the best thing I'd say. If you pull them out, make sure you got a clean, nice paper towel underneath, catch everything, watch the order of it, but do it controlled, you know. Don't be all crazy or reckless. If you don't know they're there, you could be in trouble, so that's why I'm telling you. Now you know they're there. Okay, so my pin is there. I've spent a lot of time on that. I think we're good. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take the hydraulic motor, I'm going to pair it up. I'm going to take this guy. You see it's got, it's just a wedge, and it's got little bearings and races just like in the head on an RC helicopter. And that's what interfaces with the plungers. And then the shaft on this is splined. I just dropped my pin because I tipped it to show the camera. Now somebody on camera is like, you forgot the washer. Remember the washer that you said you have to have in there? You're right, I did. So I'm glad you caught that. Good for you. So take the washer and put that in there. If you have a little oil on it, it helps it to stay in place. So I put this together. Take the block and assembly, all that stuff, stick it in there, get the splines to line up.